So, here's the game. Looks like you expect it to look, right? Everything's happy and good and pretty, no problems there, right? But, I don't like this resolution. It's too small. I want to make it a little bigger. Look, I have all kinds of resolution options. Let's make it 1600 by 1900, right? Okay, all looks pretty much okay here. But let me go into... Wait a minute. That doesn't look right. Look, this is all messed up. And the reason it's all messed up is this is a thing that nobody think... And here, I'll show you something even more messed up. Look, all this stuff is not aligned and not where it's supposed to be. Well, why is it all wrong? It was all right when I set it. If I go back and reset the options to be... let's set it back at, what was it, 1024, 768? No, that's terrible. What was it, 1280, 1024? No, what would I have it set before? Yeah, this. Alright, so here, this is a smaller resolution. Let's go and take a look. Look, that looks right now. Look, that looks right now. Well, it looks, well, actually, no, it doesn't look right. It's still broken. Right, and the reason all of these things, was it 1366? Was that what it was? Let's see. 13, what was it? 1366, 768. All right. So there, now it all starts to look right again. That looks right. Yay. Yep, it all looks right. So now everything is correct. Why? Why is it broken like that? Well, this is one of the things game developers absolutely hate. If I think about the way that we display a game onto a monitor. I don't know how big your monitor is, and I don't know what resolution you're making your windows at. I don't know any of that. There are literally hundreds of possible resolutions that you could be playing at. And each one of those resolutions, there are two kinds of things you have to look at. One is, what is the actual scale, right? Is it bigger or is it smaller? And the other is, what is the ratio, right? Is it widescreen? Is it super widescreen? Is it not widescreen? And all of those, when you put together a design for a really, a screen that's really dense and it's got lots of little UI elements and all kinds of other stuff on it, right? You put together, like you're putting together a map. Okay, this is gonna fit right here, and this is gonna fit right here, and this is gonna fit right here. But what happens when that thing suddenly changes ratio and goes like that? It's still the same height, but it went like that. Well, okay, I guess I can put some extra space on the edges, or I can scale this, or I can do whatever. There's a whole world of different things I'm going to do. But what we actually have to do is go through each one of the different elements of the UI and say, what are you aligning yourself with? Are you aligning yourself to the center of the screen? Are you putting yourself on the edges of the screen? So for instance, if I were to go... back out to here, and let's just start a game real quick. In the case of the UI here that I'm looking at, I probably don't want to align these things to the center of the screen. I probably want to align them to the corners of the screen. I probably want this, if I were to squeeze this screen in, I would not want them to be aligned to each other, because right now this one is this far from this element, but when I'm not in widescreen, I still want them in the corners, so I actually want to align them to the corners of the screen. So these are all snapped to the corners, right? Then the things within that element are snapped to the element that it's inside of, right? So each one of these little UI elements is actually aligned to the element that it's part of, but the element that it's this larger element here, this big corner element, isn't actually aligned to this element. It's actually aligned to the corner of the screen. And so each one of those has to be set up differently. Now, we had the game before where we were wondering, maybe when people have a bigger monitor, because the other question is, what if it's the same ratio? What if it's just a bigger widescreen ratio? What if it's got just more pixels? Some people who play this game would say, well, I actually don't want these screen elements to get larger. I want them to stay small. I can read them just fine at this size. I just want to move them out to the edges of my screen, and I want to have more map in the center. I want to be able to see more map because I've got like 1,000 million pixels to work with. I want to stick these things in the corner of my screen and have this nice big map. But what happens when somebody's got some retina resolution monitor or something like that, where, okay, we're going to maintain the pixel size, they're going to stay the same pixel size, but now that pixel size makes this element over in the corner like half an inch tall because you've got like a gajillion pixels on screen. So all of this kind of conflagrates into a large issue of how do you deal with all the different screen resolutions and blah, 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 blah. Anyway, this was a thing. We had earlier set things up so that it actually maintained pixel size when you went up in resolutions. But like I say, when you were on a smaller screen, these UI elements ate the entire screen up and they looked really chunky and big and ugly. And when you were on a much larger resolution screen, they got really small and hard to read. And so now we're looking at how do we scale them, but how do we scale them while maintaining the proportion properly when I go from widescreen to whatever. Anyway, it's a thing, and there's answers to all these questions. There's standard answers to these questions. This isn't like an unsolved problem. This is something that every single game developer who's ever made a game on PC, and honestly every game developer who's ever made a game for Android has had to deal with, because obviously Android has different sizes too, and what happens when you go from an iPad to an iPhone and blah blah blah. So these are not mysterious questions that we're running into for the first time, but it's again one of these things when people who aren't game developers start looking at what to make a game. What do I need to do and what do I need to worry about? Nobody ever thinks about this shit. Nobody ever says, okay, this is the point where we, put together solutions for X and Y and Z and build all this. So, there's that. So much of our job is, how do we work on this particular app store? How do we work on this crazy resolution? How do we make sure that when this game goes from PC to iPad that everything works properly, and how do we develop control systems that work well with a touch screen as well as they work with a mouse, blah blah blah. There's a whole world of these kind of questions that we have to answer. Is this a tablet game? Is this a PC game? Now, I am committed to making this game play on tablets. I'm committed. I enjoyed playing Callasia on tablets. But I think when we look at the errors of Legends of Callasia, one of the things I think we messed up on with Legends of Callasia is we said no matter what we do, everything has to be in total parity between the tablet and the PC. Everything has to work exactly the same. Everything has to look like a touchscreen control. And we bent over backwards to make sure that everything was even between the two. And one of the reasons, for instance, we didn't have hotkeys on Legends of Callasia certainly wasn't because we couldn't have had hotkeys. We had hotkeys. We turned them off before we shipped the game, but in development we had hotkeys, right? And we said the problem is in multiplayer play, is it unfair to somebody who's playing on a tablet versus someone who's playing on a PC that the guy on the PC has hotkeys and the guy on the tablet doesn't? That seemed unfair to us, so we turned them off. I think we were in error. I think and to be blunt, when I go back and I look at the records of who played the game and where did they play it and where did people love this game, Legends of Callasia was a Steam game. We had a tablet version. Some people played on tablet. I think most of the people who played on tablet were people who got it on Steam and also played it on tablet. There were very few people, there were some, but there were very few people that thought of Legends of Callasia as a tablet game. And I think they just weren't really that excited about this kind of game on tablet. That just wasn't what they were in the market for. And so as we move forward with Last Regiment, I'm committed to this being a PC first game and a Steam first game because we know that's where our audience is. We know that's where our marketing money was spent best. We will be doing things sort of more for a PC-ish audience, which includes we will probably have hotkeys for certain things. We will probably be playing around. Probably what I'm going to end up doing is not shipping this game day and date with tablet and PC. We'll do the tablet version after we get the PC version out. And part of that reason is I'm probably going to change the UI a little bit for the tablet so that there will be a slightly different version of this game on tablet where the control is a little more tablet-y, which will allow me to, because one of the big things that nobody talks about in the difference between tablet and PC is mouse over highlight, right? So I can mouse over highlight here and I can see things, you see these things as I mouse over them. There's no reason why I couldn't do a mouse over highlight tooltip that gives me information like how much does this cost, or why can't. There's all kinds of stuff that I can do with a mouse over highlight. They don't have mouse over highlights on tablet because when you touch something, right? And so the whole dynamic of being able to mouse over something and get information and then click on it doesn't exist on tablet. And it actually really limits our ability to put teaching information into the game where I can give you that kind of information that you want right now.